Chapter 1.
Jax grinned as the shuttle's thrusters roared to life, pressing him back into his jump seat. The vessel shook violently as it tore from the launch pad, engine's thunder reverberating through his chest as it clawed free of Syndralis' gravity.
To the black!
Someone shouted. Jax recognized Cole's voice.
Unbroken!
He joined in, his reply swallowed up by the chorus of their classmates. The shaking eased as they broke through the planet's atmosphere, and Jax's grin widened in anticipation. It felt like a lifetime ago that he had told his parents about his acceptance into the academy. The training had been grueling, but he had endured it, and now, at last, he was officially a striker pilot, bound for his first assignment. Jack pulled out his tablet and paused briefly, his eyes lingering on the lock screen. It was a photo of him, Cole, and two other classmates from the academy, Reyes and Talbot, taken on graduation day. Arms slung over shoulders, grins splitting their faces, cigars clenched between their teeth. The excitement of that moment still felt fresh, like it could carry him forever. Finally, Jack swiped up to unlock the screen and pulled up his assignment orders once more. The words glowed stark and official on the display. By order of Fleet Command, Ensign Jack Harland is hereby assigned to 317th Flak Squadron Unbroken, Carrier Task Force 12, CV-12 Resolute, reporting immediately for active duty. He let the words sink in, rereading them as if repetition might make them more real. His first assignment was aboard the carrier Resolute. There had been such a rush from graduation to celebration to being assigned his orders and shipped out to make room for the next batch of recruits that he hadn't had a chance to review his orders thoroughly. In fact, he suddenly realized, other than the fact that he was assigned to a striker squadron aboard a carrier, he didn't really know anything about his assignment. Anxiety mixed in with his existing excitement, and he opened a search window on his tablet. He entered a search for Task Force 12 Sindarin Navy. A list of results populated on his screen, and he clicked on the first one. CNS Resolute CV-12. He skimmed past the commissioning dates, builders, and namesakes, pausing instead at the overview. Known by its call sign Resolute/Res-12, the ship has earned the crew nickname the Meat Grinder for its heavy combat record.
The Meat Grinder.
He muttered to himself with a grin. A carrier that chewed up anything foolish enough to go up against it. The section continued on about the ship's origins and legacy, but Jax was more interested in its specifications and scrolled down the page, skimming the information as he did so. He planted his finger firmly on the screen to stop the scrolling when his eyes caught what he was looking for. Aviation and Fleet Complement. The Resolute's primary role is as a fleet carrier, capable of launching both strike craft and supporting vessels. Jack scrolled slowly through the list. Strikers, Hornets, Corsairs, the names kept coming. Fighters, bombers, even rescue craft. Half a page of hardware, all packed into one ship. He read the section through in its entirety, and then his eyes flicked back to the fighter wings. 44 Striker light fighters. He deactivated the screen and leaned back in his seat with a broad smile on his face. Not only was he being assigned to fly a Striker, but to the 317th Unbroken Squadron. Every cadet knew the story. Admiral Dravik at Varina's gate, staring down impossible odds. Outnumbered, outgunned, but refusing to yield. His speech had been drilled into them from their first day at the academy. A rallying cry that had carried through generations. We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. But we are not out of the fight. They will break upon us like waves against the cliff. We will not yield. We will not falter. We will go into the black, unbroken. The words echoed in Jax's mind, the same way they had in countless simulations and ceremonies. For the fleet, it was legend. For him, it was suddenly personal. He wasn't just repeating a line of history anymore. He was about to live it. The original squadron had been formed after the battle, drawn entirely from the veterans who survived it. Its name wasn't just history, it was a legacy. He couldn't have hoped for a more prestigious assignment, but he definitely earned it. He'd worked harder than anyone else in his class at the academy, spending every spare minute he had in the simulators. He'd been determined to be the best and had ended at the top of his class in combat aviation. Cole had been his roommate at the academy, always trying to drag Jax from his studies into the questionable extracurriculars orbiting academy life. In truth, it was Jax who had shaped Cole more than the other way around. Cole had more raw, natural talent as a pilot, and even though he hadn't fully given up his wild life of parties and chasing girls, thanks to Jax's influence, he had managed to land in the top 5 of their class as well. Because of all this, they had managed to land this assignment together, which gave Jax incredible peace of mind knowing that he would have his best friend flying with him. All in there were 23 of his classmates that had been assigned to the Resolute. 5 of them had been assigned to Unbroken. Jax's eyebrows furrowed a bit as he wondered why there were so many openings in the Resolute's order of battle. 5 openings in such a prestigious squadron as Unbroken seemed rather high. His face relaxed as his mind moved past the thought. He'd have more information when the transport arrived after all. He leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes and taking in a deep breath from the air being blown in his face by the circulator. He had grown to love the smell of canned air. The smell had been permanently attached to the feeling of freedom he felt when he was in the pilot's seat. It was synonymous with the feeling of success that he felt for achieving his goal of graduating from the academy. It brought back the overwhelming sense of pride he had felt at having the winged star pinned to his uniform to mark him as a Sindarin Navy pilot. He breathed deeply of the smell of the canned air being pumped through the ship as he drifted off to sleep. Jax jerked awake as the Paladin lurched to a stop, the engines whining as they began their shutdown cycle. He blinked the sleep from his eyes as he tried desperately to get his bearings. The cool air blown from the air circulators was gone now, and the lights in the cabin flickered as the ship's power systems went into standby mode.
Wake up, sleepyhead.
Cole sang as he practically danced up the walkway to Jax's seat.
We're there.
Jax's back straightened, and he nearly injured himself as he tried to jump out of his seat before taking off his harness. It all clicked into place, the tiredness suddenly gone from his brain. They had landed aboard the Resolute.
Thank you for flying with us today.
A voice called out in mock cheerfulness as the Paladin's co-pilot made his way into the cabin from the cockpit.
The local time is 0800 hours, and the temperature is a comfortable 68 degrees. The weather today is expected to be non-existent. Please remember, your feedback is important to us. If you have any complaints, you can be sure to deposit them in the latrine, where they will be reviewed in a timely manner.
Several of the passengers grinned or chuckled as the co-pilot reached the back of the cabin and pulled the release on the inner hatch as he turned to face them.
And remember, kids, any belongings left on the Paladin after you disembark will be divided up among its crew.
He droned on.
Don't put yourself in the position of having to explain to your CO why you need to replace your entire duffel of duty gear on the first day by leaving it behind.
He stepped to the side and gestured through the hatch to the descending outer ramp.
Welcome to the meat grinder.
Jax grabbed his duffel from the storage bay, throwing it over his shoulders. He followed Cole through the cabin to the hatch and nodded to the Paladin's co-pilot as he ducked through it and made his way down the ramp. He looked up at the overhanging tail of the Paladin. Its rear thrusters were extended out beyond the ramp, and the framework connecting them to the cabin section had all kinds of attachment points and winches. The versatility of the craft was extremely evident in every aspect of its design. His interest in the Paladin's design didn't last very long, though, as he took in the Resolute's primary landing bay. To say it was massive was an understatement. The bay extended almost the entirety of the ship's 2,145-meter length with inbound landing zones angled in from numerous exterior bays. The noise of the hangar bay swallowed every other thought he had going on. Strikers, Corsairs, Hammerheads, and countless other ships gleamed under the work lights as crews in yellow and orange vests carried out a variety of tasks on them, from repairs to rearming and refueling.
Rookies, on me!
A voice barked out, amplified by a handheld comm device. A lieutenant with close-cropped hair stood on a supply crate, waving a tablet at them like a conductor's baton. The name Karen was stenciled across the chest plate of her flight suit, and Jax recognized the unit patch for the Night Fangs, or the 10th Fighter Light Attack Craft. They all gathered around her as the last of the pilots came down the Paladin's ramp.
Listen up.
She barked again, and what conversations had still been going on cut off abruptly.
Welcome to the meat grinder, rookies.
She said in a tone that would have given any drill instructor a run for their money.
I'm your welcoming committee, and I don't intend to repeat myself, so you'd better pay attention the first time.
Jax swallowed a sudden sense of nervousness and tried to calm his excitement.
Going up lift number 1.
She pointed to a personnel hatch across the hangar.
317 Unbroken. You guys are going to be in Bay 1. Follow the blue line. 260 Iron Rain. You're in Bay 2. Yellow line. 52 Storm Riders, Bay 3. No need to wait to hear where everyone else is going. Once you know where you belong, get your stuff and get off the deck.
Jax and Cole started making their way to the lift as she continued calling out instructions without even slowing down. Jax felt a bit surprised at the number of pilots who fell in with them on the way to the lift.
Warm welcome, wasn't it?
Cole asked with a grin as they walked.
Military charm.
Jax said distractedly as several battle-scarred fighters were hauled past them. They stepped off the lift, joining the flow of pilots peeling away toward their assigned bays. Jax and Cole followed the blue line painted across the deck plating, marking the path to Bay 1. 3 others fell in beside them, all familiar faces from the academy. At the front was Mira Ardan, short and sharp-featured, her dark hair cropped close in a practical cut. She'd been in Jax's flight dynamics courses and had a knack for turning any simulation into a competition. Next to her walked Mateo Rios, a quiet but steady pilot who had tutored half their class through orbital mechanics. Bringing up the rear was Devin Hale, tall and broad-shouldered, his head shaved smooth and his grin as cocky as ever. Jax remembered him mostly from the Academy's rec yard, where he'd run pickup gravball games like a small dictatorship. Mira caught Jax's eye and flashed a bright smile.
Hey, Jax. Guess we're all in Unbroken.
Jax's pulse quickened. He was far more comfortable in the cockpit running dogfighting maneuvers than he was talking to girls, especially ones with smiles like Mira's.
Looks that way. I didn't expect to see so many familiar faces this early on.
Same here.
Mateo said, shifting his duffel.
Though I can't say I'm surprised they put you here. You aced half the final runs in our cohort.
Jax felt his ears warm.
Yeah, well, luck helps.
Cole clapped a hand on his shoulder before Jax could say more.
Don't let him fool you.
He said to the others with an exaggerated grin.
He's just being humble because he doesn't want to scare you off.
Right.
Mira said with a smirk.
Because humility is what I remember about you two.
Devin laughed.
Sounds like Unbroken's gonna be lively.
Before Jax could think of a reply, a voice barked from farther up the corridor.
Make a hole!
Instinct kicked in. They pressed to the walls as 4 pilots in flight suits jogged past. The group straightened as they disappeared around the bend. Mira adjusted her duffel and started walking again.
Well,
She said, glancing back with a spark in her eyes.
guess that's our cue to get moving before someone else decides to yell at us.
Cole whistled low.
Yeah, she's trouble.
Shut up.
Jax muttered, shoving past him toward the door marked 317 Unbroken Squadron. He keyed the door, which slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing his new home. The entryway opened into a broad common area, the heart of the bay. Tables and chairs were arranged around the space in loose clusters, surrounded by storage lockers and flight gear racks. A small galley kitchen occupied one corner, the faint smell of brewed coffee still lingering. The floor under their boots bore the Unbroken's insignia, a red circle with a pair of outstretched wings, the number 317 emblazoned in white at its heart. Scuffs and dulling couldn't hide how deliberately it had been polished, or how the crew seemed to walk around it rather than across it. The far wall drew Jax's attention immediately. A long metal shelf stretched the entire length of the room, lined with photos, flight patches, and an assortment of mementos. Lucky charms, trinkets, a handful of large-caliber casings, even an old flight helmet with a cracked visor. Hanging beneath the shelf was a dense curtain of dog tags, hundreds of them swaying faintly in the recycled air, scraping softly against one another like chimes. At the center of it all hung the squadron's flag, a deep crimson field with the winged circle and 317 emblazoned across it in white. 16 hooks framed the flag, 8 on each side, each holding a gleaming dog tag belonging to what Jax assumed were the squadron's current pilots. They caught the light as the door closed behind the newcomers, the reflection shifting like small stars against the metal wall. They all stood staring at the wall of dog tags, and Jax could only assume that the rest of the group must be experiencing the same apprehension at the sight that he was. Suddenly, another pilot came out of one of the hallways leading off the common room and nearly skidded to a stop at the sight of them.
Well, well, well,
the woman said as she sized them up. She had a shock of unnaturally red hair that hung long and loose down her back in clear disregard for regulation. She had pale skin and brilliantly blue eyes. She tugged her flight suit's collar into place and grinned.
Fresh meat.
We just got in from the academy.
Mateo started to explain.
Don't care,
She said briskly.
Call me Jinx. You'll need to report to the commander or the XO. One or the other is bound to be in the mess, which is where I'm headed. Leave your junk, and let's go.
Without another word, she strode past them toward the corridor, boots ringing against the deck. Cole cleared his throat as he dropped his duffel by the door.
Guess that's our cue.
Jax hesitated for just a moment, his gaze drawn back to the flag and the 16 shining tags beside it, before following the rest of the group out. The corridor opened into the Resolute's pilot mess, a cavernous space filled with the low thrum of voices and the ever-present hum of the carrier's systems. The ever-present smells of metal, oil, and recycled air were overpowered here by the smells of dozens of bodies in various states of cleanliness, cooking food, and brewing coffee.
Where are they?
Cole asked Jinx loudly to be heard over the noise.
Food first,
Jinx said, waving them along as she strode through the entrance.
I'm rotating to cap in an hour, and I'm not doing that on an empty stomach.
Jinx grabbed a tray and made her way down the mess line, picking and choosing from the available options. The rookies followed her down the serving line, trays clattering, the nervous energy among them palpable. According to the ship's standard clock, it was evening, but to Jax, it felt like it should be morning. Luckily, the mess served food, expecting people to be coming in on different day-night cycles, so he was able to opt for the breakfast options. He scooped up a helping of eggs and potatoes and grabbed as much bacon as he felt he could get away with. The food all smelled amazing, and he felt his mouth starting to water. At the far end of the mess, a cluster of pilots occupied a table. Jax recognized them as being from Unbroken Squadron by the winged circle emblems stamped into their flight jackets. Jinx nodded toward the two figures at the end.
There's your leadership, rookies. Commander Kane and Lieutenant Commander Valen.
Commander Darius Reaper Kane sat at the head of the table, his presence heavy even in silence. He looked much older than Jax expected, mid-40s maybe, but still built like someone who had lived most of his life pulling G's. His jaw was set, his expression unreadable. A long scar ran from his temple down to his collar, catching the overhead light whenever he turned. Across from him sat Lieutenant Commander Rhea Torch Valen, the squadron's XO. Her dark hair was cropped short, and a streak of silver at her temple stood out against the tan of her skin. Where Kane radiated stillness, she projected sharp focus. Her eyes missed nothing. 3 other pilots sat at the table engaged in conversation, pausing to look the rookies over as Jinx dropped her tray onto the table. She gestured for the rookies to sit, and they did.
Commander, XO.
She snapped a casual salute that barely met regulation.
New meat from the academy. Figured you'd want to see them before they break anything.
Reaper didn't look up from his tray.
I'm eating.
Jinx shrugged, unfazed.
And I'm hungry, and they're not my problem anymore.
She dropped into her seat before anything else could be said, digging into her food. Torch gave a long, suffering sigh and stood.
Don't mind her. You're the new blood for Unbroken, yes?
The rookies scrambled back to their feet, trays half forgotten as they came to attention. Cole nearly spilled his drink in the process, and one of the pilots snorted a laugh.
Yes, ma'am.
Jax said, straightening.
Reporting in from the Academy, per assignment order.
He fumbled with the data pad from his pocket, passing it over. Torch accepted it, her expression softening slightly as she scanned the orders.
Welcome aboard the Resolute.
Her voice was steady, professional, but not unkind.
You'll find Unbroken is different from what you're used to.
She handed the pad back to Jax.
Commander Kane, your replacements are here.
Reaper finally looked up, his eyes cold and sharp.
Replacements?
He said flatly, as if testing the word.
Funny how that never sounds right.
Cole, ever eager to fill the silence, grinned.
We'll do our best to make you proud, sir. Any of us is worth 10 of theirs, right?
Reaper's gaze lingered on him a moment too long.
Sure thing, kid.
He said, voice dry enough to cut through the hum of the mess.
Keep telling yourself that.
Don't worry, sir.
A pilot with the call sign Falcon under his unit patch said.
We'll make sure they figure out which end of a striker's which before we launch them.
Devin nudged Cole.
I'll get more kills than you anyway,
he muttered.
In your dreams,
Cole shot back.
I'm betting I'll break the squadron record before the next patrol cycle.
Records are written in names.
A pilot who sat playing aimlessly with his food said quietly from the far side of the table, not looking up from his tray.
And the wall's got plenty already.
That shut them up. Jax looked back down at his tray. The soggy, rehydrated eggs, the leathery bacon, the burnt potatoes. None of it looked very appetizing anymore. As they left the mess, the laughter and clatter faded behind them, replaced by the muted hum of the carrier, a sound that suddenly felt heavier than before. The walk back to the squadron bay was quiet. The rookies followed Torch through the narrow corridor, their earlier chatter gone. Even Cole kept his mouth shut, the hum of the carrier filling the silence instead. When they entered the bay, their attention was immediately drawn back to the memorial wall, the crimson flag of the 317th hanging like a living ember against the metal bulkhead. The air seemed thicker here. Torch walked straight to the wall. She stopped in front of the 16 hooks framing the flag, her hands clasped loosely behind her back.
This,
She said, voice low but steady,
is what it means to fly for Unbroken Squadron.
The 5 rookies lined up instinctively, eyes drawn to the mass of dog tags swaying beneath the shelf. The sound of them clinking together in the breeze from the air vents was soft but unrelenting, the sound of history. The veteran pilots who had come back from the mess with them, as well as several more who had come out of the hall looking half asleep, lined up along the walls of the room. Torch gestured toward the hooks.
16 active pilots. That's our full strength. The tags you see hanging on those hooks belong to your predecessors, the ones you're replacing.
Jax's eyes scanned the hooks with their gleaming metal tags hanging from them and swallowed. Torch continued.
Every tag below belongs to someone who gave everything they had. Some in combat, some in accidents, all part of this squadron's story. Before you hang your own tags on these hooks, you'll read the names of the pilots whose places you take and move them to the past.
She turned slightly and nodded to Jax.
You first.
Jax swallowed again and stepped forward as she pulled a set of tags off a hook and handed them to him.
Grinder,
she said so softly he barely heard her. Jax took the tag, the metal cold in his palm. He looked at the now empty hook, then back to Torch.
Read his name aloud.
He nodded, voice low but clear.
Lieutenant Samuel Corrin.
The name seemed to hang in the air, absorbed by the steady hum of the ship.
Grinder held the line when the fleet was ambushed.
Torch said softly but clearly.
He put his own ship in harm's way to shield one of his fellow pilots so they could take down incoming missiles that would have crippled the Resolute's ability to launch fighters.
She nodded to the shifting wall of tags, and Jax carefully hung the tags among them.
Now hang yours,
she directed, and Jax obeyed, removing them and slipping them onto the empty hook. At another nod, he stepped back in line.
You next.
She gestured at Cole and pulled down another set of tags. Cole stepped forward, his expression subdued for the first time since they'd landed.
Lieutenant Junior Grade Mara Dane.
Grinder's wingman. She stayed with him to the end.
Torch said.
2 kills before her fighter tore itself apart. No time to eject.
Cole hung the tag among the rest and removed his own to take its place on the hook.
One by one, Torch handed out the rest. The rookies reading the names of the dead pilots whose places they were taking among the ranks of Unbroken Squadron.
When the last name was read, the bay was silent except for the faint, ghostly chime of the dog tags below the shelf.
These aren't just names.
Reaper's voice growled out from behind them, and Jax turned to face him.
Some of us owe our lives to them. You may take their place, but you can never replace them.
A murmur of agreement rose from the other veterans.
Your names are a part of us now,
Reaper said, gesturing at their tags on the wall.
Survive your first combat, and you'll earn new ones. Until then, you go by your designation.
Into the black.
Torch called out loudly. Unbroken, the pilots chorused.
Brick, get blues 3 and 4 squared away.
Torch said to one of the other pilots they had eaten with, and then turned to the group that had been woken to come join them.
Gold and black flights, sort your people out.
Grab your stuff and let's go.
Brick said to Jax and Cole.
I'll show you where you'll be bunking.
Jax glanced back once more at the wall, at the countless tags whispering in the recycled air, and suddenly understood the real reason why they called it the meat grinder.